Welcome to another edition of Believe in Giants. Bob Papa with two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. And Carl, the schedule is out. Came out on Wednesday night. But that's not why we're doing this podcast. Anybody could talk about a schedule. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, loss, win.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on. But, I've gotten very frustrated here. So the other night, I'm on social media, X to be exact. And a guy I really enjoy his work is Steve Palazzolo from Pro Football Focus. So he had a little time on his hands. So he decided to do some film study. And he said 2025. This is all he said. The quarterback at Georgia, 2025 QB1. Meaning going into next year's draft, in his opinion, in his early opinion, before they even played a game this college football season, he said this guy's got the potential to be the top quarterback coming out next year. So I responded with, I like Jackson Dart. First of all, I like the name. And I started watching some Ole Miss football because Charlie Weiss, four-time Super Bowl champion, is my co-host on Sirius XM. And his son is the offensive coordinator under Lane Kiffin. So I've been paying attention to Ole Miss football. And I've also understand that Ole Miss, through the transfer portal, they brought in a lot of dudes. They brought in a lot of guys. And they're going to be a team that's going to contend not only in the SEC, but they got a really good chance to make it to the playoffs and be in the playoffs. Now, did I say Giants anywhere in that tweet?
No, you did not.
Was Steve Palazzolo's tweet in any way Giant related?
Nope.
Well, how did it become a negative Daniel Jones comment?
It is, I think we're in goofy land right now. I mean, these, again, let's preface this. There are certain sector of folks that call themselves Giant fans that have made it their life's work to shit on Daniel Jones. I mean, and it's to the point, and they don't even realize it. It's to the point to where they're so goofy with these takes that it's making Daniel Jones a sympathetic figure. And what it does is forcing people, which I'm seeing more and more of, forcing people to say, hey, look, he didn't have certain things, and there weren't certain things in place. And, he's had several different coaching staffs. And so this constant beating on a guy that you're supposed to be a fan of his team is just outright goofy, right? I mean, and it's so overdone right now. It's not exhausting. It's just tired. And it just tells you that sector of people are not interested in their team. They're interested in attention, and they're more interested in someone failing than they are succeeding. And that just is counterproductive to the team that you're supposed to be rooting for. Because, and I saw someone had questioned you about how can you root for Daniel Jones when you've said all these bad things about him? And it's like, well, first of all, he didn't say bad things about Daniel Jones. He's been honest in his assessment of Daniel Jones, but it's just, and it became, this guy wanted to go back and forth. And, again, I was going to comment, then I'm like, nope, because John Schmelk told me best. It's like, these guys want attention and they want the engagement. And it's just, it's goofy, and it's goofy town. Like the season's going to start. Um, Daniel Jones is going to fail or succeed on his own merits, not because you're rooting for him to fail. And if you are um, in that sector who just nothing will satisfy you when it comes to Daniel Jones, you're probably a gambler and you just hate the guy because you lost a lot of money and that doesn't get your players involved. But it's just downright goofy, and you have successfully made Daniel Jones a sympathetic figure, and you're just encouraging people to really root for Daniel Jones because it's counterproductive when you're rooting for a team and you don't want their players to succeed. It's goofy.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, well, next year they're going to go then draft a quarterback because he's going to fail. Well, maybe he's not going to fail. First of all, you and I have been big supporters of Daniel Jones since his rookie year. And here's where Daniel Jones has been totally screwed. You take a look at any of the top quarterbacks of this generation, and you can start with Brady, and you can go to Peyton Manning, and you can go down the list. The guys that have had success didn't have a head coach and an offensive coordinator his rookie year, a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator, and a new O-line coach his second year, the same head coach with a new offensive coordinator and a new offensive line coach in his third year, and yet a new head coach and a new offensive line coach, and then a new head coach, or the same head coach, a new offensive line coach, a different offensive coordinator. Like, you show me Ben Roethlisberger, he had Ken Wisenhunt for a couple of years. He had Cowher and then Tomlin. Then he had Bruce Arians for 4 or 5 years, followed by Todd Haley, all accomplished offensive line coaches with 2 head coaches and consistency with the offensive line. Eli Manning had Tom Coughlin from his rookie year until Coach Coughlin was dismissed. And for the majority of his time there, he had Kevin Gilbride as his offensive coordinator, and he had Pat Flaherty as his offensive line coach, because the O-line coach is the next closest important position to being a coordinator on any staff.
Absolutely.
Coordinate the run game, the blocking schemes. You know, Drew Brees goes to New Orleans. He's got Sean Payton the entire time, who's also running the offense. Aaron Rodgers goes to the Packers, and there was Mike Sherman, then there was Mike McCarthy, and there was the same system, and there was continuity. Then you take a look at Alex Smith, who wound up having a good career. Revolving door of head coaches in San Francisco, revolving door of offensive coordinators, and it didn't get good until Harbaugh finally showed up, and then he went to Kansas City and had Andy Reid in a consistent system. You can't be successful as a young quarterback in this league when in your first 4 years in the National Football League, you've gone through 3 head coaches, 5 offensive coordinators, 5 offensive line coaches, and 4 offensive coordinators. The guy has been totally screwed.
And it's a fact. I mean, it's not a debatable point because when you want to do the comps, and you know, folks love to do comps of Daniel Jones versus X. And if you got these better quarterbacks that are better, just look at the systems. What does stability look like? And we haven't even gotten into the failure at personnel around the quarterback, but just the continuous change in terms of systems. You can be the smartest guy in the world, but you're getting different terminologies, different coaching styles, different requirements or expectations. And your quarterback, you go out and do the best you can, right? But if there's no consistency to build on from year to year, you're basically starting over again. And so I've kind of stayed out of the Daniel Jones senseless debates, but these are the hard, cold facts. Um, and if you're in a system, so many different systems, it impacts you. It impacts the team around you, and it does not create continuity. I understand fans' frustrations, and they need someone to point to. And yeah, the quarterback is the leader of the team. But you've got to support your best player or your most important player. And, I think, as we look at what's happening now, they've got a really good offensive line coach in Carmen Priscilla. Um, he understands, because he's been a coach for Tom Brady. He understands how a quarterback should operate. Um, they've gotten some depth on the offensive line, which is going to be very important for this team. Because when a key guy goes down and you have zero stability, and you got guys that are getting more experience as football players, because offensive linemen right now, the the age of puberty, as I call it, in terms of football, it's around year 3. It's not 18 months anymore. It's not they've seen it all, now they're ready. They haven't even seen it at any level because of the systems that they've come from in college. And, there's going to be 1 or 2 unicorns. That's why Joe Alt was, the only offensive lineman that was coveted early in this draft, because he's the guy that kind of transcends that. But it's going to take a lot for your quarterback to be successful. And again, you have the people saying, well, Malik Neighbors is there to save Daniel. No, Malik Neighbors is there to be who Malik Neighbors is. And does that make your quarterback better? Well, I would suspect it would. Because if you look at every great quarterback or every great wide receiver, they had a quarterback throwing to them. And every great quarterback pretty much had really good wide receivers. So that's how football works. So if your wide receiver makes your quarterback better, why do you have a problem with it? I mean, this is the goofy land that folks are in. Like, are you upset because they got a good receiver and he will make your quarterback better? Isn't that the objective? Like, when your team doesn't have any effing talent and you get talent, now you're mad because he's going to make your quarterback better? That's how it works, folks. When the Giants defense wasn't good and there was Lawrence Taylor that shows up, he made effing everybody better.
Absolutely.
How did we get to this point where you guys aren't happy unless you're miserable? And it's not all of you. This is that sector that love to chirp about anything negative and don't have any positive outlook for their team. And it's like they're rooting for failure. And I honestly, it is the most goofy thing I have ever experienced. Like, teams with no talent, they look bad. Teams with talent, they look good. You get playmakers in there to make everybody look good. That's just how it works. That's how sports work. You win with talent. And if your talent can make someone average be above average, then so effing be it. Right? Lawrence Taylor had Leonard Marshall, really good. Damn near Hall of Fame, if not. I, on the other hand, had Eric Dorsey and Curtis McGriff, right? We got the job done, but there's a difference. So talent on the left side made Eric Dorsey better. Talent on the left side made John Washington, it made Curtis McGriff better, right? So talent, rising tide lifts all boats, folks. That's how it works.
Yeah, and I hate when people put words in my mouth, because I was commenting on something that had nothing to do with the Giants. And then you get this whole anti-Daniel Jones crew rolling, which I honestly don't get why you look, he was lousy at the start of last year. Yeah, objectively look at it. He would tell you he was lousy. Everybody would tell you he was lousy. And it turned out to be a nightmare of a year for him. But I still believe in Daniel Jones and all these fans that want the next. We're never going to get to winning again until we get the next guy.
Yeah.
Well, this year we'll decide it for you. But the next guy, guess what? Of all these quarterbacks you fans were clamoring around about in this year's draft and the 6 that went in the first round, here's a guarantee. 3 of them are going to be abject failures.
Mm-hmm.
And most likely, those coaching staffs and GMs are going to get canned because that's the batting average at best with these high first-round quarterbacks. So I guess Giant fans are just willing to put their hand on the grenade all the time. How about let's see what this guy does with a better O-line and finally, for once, having a receiver that other teams are going to have to game plan against.
Sure. And that's going to make the other receivers on your team better. And it's going to make your coaching better too, by the way. I spent a few minutes 2 days ago with Brian Dable, and he was showing me just some of the formations and stuff, the flexibility that they have now. That Neighbors is going to be on the field and what they can do with the running back and the other receiver positions. It should be fun to watch. And the reality, folks, is it's going to come down to your offensive line. The head coach, no matter what the skill set of his starting quarterback, is going to give him plays that he can have success at. So you guys can go on to your all 22 and say, you see, he couldn't hit the downfield play, or he couldn't do this, or he couldn't do that. When your offensive line is good, they're going to give him plays that he can make, not the ones you want him to make. And then you'll be able to judge whether or not Daniel Jones is competent enough to continue as a New York Giants quarterback. It's just that simple. You guys are tying yourselves in knots, almost rooting for the guy to fail. And you won't know anything until he takes the field. And no one wants to be good more than Daniel Jones. So you should want your quarterback, whoever it is at that position, to be effective and to run the offense successfully. That's all you can ask for. So rooting against a guy, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
You know, I told the story on this podcast before about the 22 season, and Giants won a game, and Daniel Jones was still getting ripped by the former quarterbacks on TV that, you know, have the telestrator board and all that other stuff, saying his eyes, look at, he missed this guy running wide open. And I've told this story before on the air, and Dable kind of made fun of me as we were getting ready to tape the show. And he said, you know, you sound like family members or whatever, saying, why didn't he throw it to that guy? He goes, because that guy ran the wrong route. He wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So when you got a quarterback that's coming off turnover prone seasons, are you going to throw it to a guy that's running the wrong route, not knowing what route he's going to actually finish running?
Yeah, that part.
Maybe Favre would do it, you know, when you got 10 years in the league, or maybe Brady might cut one loose. But I'll give you one more. So to follow that up, and then your comment. So obviously I do the show on Sirius XM NFL Radio with Charlie Weiss, and he gets livid. Not just about like Giant stuff, but he gets livid when he watches these guys on TV on Monday and Tuesday breaking down reads that guys missed. And he goes, you know, they're all full of crap. I said, well, what do you mean, coach? It looked like, he goes, you have no idea what the progression is on the play that's called.
Exactly.
He goes, I used to get into all kinds of battles with a young Tom Brady because a couple times he freelanced. And I'm like, where are you going with the ball there? He's like, well, he goes, no. Was that 1, 2? Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. That's where your eyes go. Go through your progressions. And if 1 is open, you're taking 1. Doesn't matter if on the all 22, some weekend hack is looking at the film and saying, oh, he had guys running free and he threw it to there. That's the way they're being coached. They're being coached to go through their progressions, and there's a 1, there's a 2, there's a 3, maybe there's a 4. Scan the field if you have enough time, and you pick all these things out. But they want you to go through your progressions.
Well,
and
that's how football works. That's how they block it. That's how you know when you have enough time. They factor in not just receivers. they factor in whether or not a quarterback's going to have time to
How many
make
step
certain
drop it
plays.
is?
Right. So when you see a guy running free and he decides that he's going to run the wrong route or is too dumb to know what his routes are, and the quarterback, and you guys say the quarterback missed him, well, hell, he was given an assignment. And that's how the play is supposed to work, because if you think he didn't read it, it's because it wasn't on the script. And quarterbacks that freelance don't last long in the NFL. Simple as that. You want a splash play and then the guy has a ton of other mistakes, or you want a guy who can effectively run your offense and constantly get you in positions. And that's what you should want. Not someone who can sit there and say, see, there's a route right there that, he missed, that guy's running wide open. Well, guy didn't even know where he was doing.
Right. Or it wasn't part of the progression, the play design. And as you get deeper into your career and you have more and more success, you then kind of earn the right to freelance a little bit.
It's called a check with me.
Correct.
You make eye contact with your receiver makes eye contact with you, or he comes to the sideline and say, look, if this guy's going to play X amount, I think I can beat him on this. Well, everybody's on the same page then. It's not one of these deals where you just take off running like it's, street football and you just hold your hand up and the guy's supposed to throw it to you. Nope, not like that, because quarterback didn't even know you were running that particular play. So I mean, listen, man, it's interesting just to see the behavior of that sector of people who are just negative regardless. But you guys will get a chance to learn more about the personalities of this team. You'll get some unfettered access in to a certain degree with the Hard Knocks, and this is something that Giants ownership has never really been in favor of, and because this is the 100th season of football for the New York Giants, they decided to just allow NFL films to come in and do Hard Knocks. And I think, you guys you'll learn more about your football players, and you'll learn more about your coaching too.
Yeah, and I think the difference is this is a Hard Knocks off season as opposed to Hard Knocks training camp. And 100 seasons, Wellington Maris started with the team as a scout for his father. He has always been enamored. He was always enamored with the scouting part of things because, over the years, his older brother, before he had passed, kind of handled the business stuff with the father. Wellington Maris was more on the football side. So it's always been his passion. So I think it's kind of fitting with season 100 that the Giants' Hard Knocks is more of the scouting off-season work that goes into the season than the actual training camp version. Because I see you got the shirt. I see you got this hoodie on.
So yeah, available on Fanatics right now too, Giants.com.
I like that. The new starter, 1925 100-year version.
Mm-hmm.
So we got this big event at Madison Square Garden, the theater, on June the 20th, and it's going to be awesome. It is we're working through the program, and what we're going to, scheduled to appear are the 2 Super Bowl winning head coaches for a little sit down, and then all kinds of players from various eras are going to be there and be part of these different panel discussions. We're going to look at top plays, top moments, top players, share a lot of stories. But I've been working hard on this whole thing, including the, all the things that we have going. And again, it's like this negative fan base segment that's just annoying the crap out of me right now. Because we recorded all these podcasts with legendary players that are going to get rolled out starting in July. The storytelling is unbelievable. And then I saw some people say, oh, typical Giants, just another diversionary tactic to mask another bad season coming. And I'm like, stop it. This is a historical season. regardless.
It's the goofy brigade, Bob.
But they seem to be growing.
Well, of course, goofy is contagious sometimes. But some don't realize, you have to appreciate your organization. Yes, some of these things that happened before some of you were born, but it gives you a sense of history. And if you don't have that sense of history, you want to really appreciate your team for the Tiffany status that it has within the entire NFL ecosystem. This organization, I know you want them to win more, they do too. But from a respect standpoint, not some player running his mouth saying they don't like the Giants, but from a institutional respect standpoint, this is one of the cornerstones of the NFL. And I think it's important for young fans to really have a perspective on that. I remember when I came into the organization in '84, it was, people telling me about the greatness of Y.E. Tittle, Andy Robustelli, Rosie Brown, and Fran Tarkenton, and all the coaches, and you get a sense of what Giant pride is about. Like, so if you're complaining about what you see, hold them to a standard. You can hold them to the Michael Strahan standard, or the Eli Manning era standard, the Phil Simms era standard. And there were, I think, 9 other championships before there was a Super Bowl. Like, those are standards, folks. So when you're frustrated and you want to, just tee off on these players, hold them to that standard. Hold them to a organizational standard. This team, these owners, contrary to what you guys believe, you got an ownership that grew up in football. They know what this standard is. It's spanned generations. So they do not take losing with, some like, oh, well, they know what it's like to be a champion. And then the other side of ownership came into this, and all they know, they got 3 championships actually in that family, the Tisch family. So these owners care about football. And I know, because everyone lives in the moment, and that's fair, because you only know now. But there are standards that this organization tries to live up to. And that's why they're a respected organization institutionally in all of sports, but especially in the NFL ecosystem.
John Mara has been very vocal about how miserable the last 10 years have been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like anybody from the organization is sugarcoating some of these awful seasons that they've had over the last 10 years. But I want to put it in context. And again, I understand why the fans are upset.
Yep.
It's been a rough 10 years. But I was born in 1964. The Giants lost the NFL championship game to the Bears in 63. I was born in 64. The Giants didn't make the playoffs until I was 17 years old. They lost in the championship game in 63. They didn't sniff a playoff again until 81. Think about that time frame. I guess in 1970, they had a chance. They didn't get in. Now, as bad as the last 10 years have been, they still went to 2 playoffs and are 1-2, and they actually won a playoff game during this bad stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think, look, New England has had an unprecedented run. The Ravens since 2000 have been a model of consistency going deep.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Kansas City is putting together this stretch. But I did a little research. So in the last 10 years, the Cowboys have been to the postseason 6 times. but they haven't gotten to a conference championship game. In fact, the Cowboys' last Super Bowl win and their last appearance in an NFC championship game was in the 1995 season. Since 2000, the Giants are 3-0 in NFC championship games and 2-1 in Super Bowls. Phillies had a nice run since the 2000s. They've been in 3 Super Bowls. They've won 1. Been to a bunch of conference championship games. Lost a bunch of them, but they won 3 of them. Washington, over the last 10 years, they've been in the playoffs twice, just like the Giants, and they're 0-2 in the playoffs. And they last won a Super Bowl and appeared in a conference championship game in the 1991 season. Think Washington's fan base, or the Cowboys fan base, would trade the last 23 years for what the Giants have provided to their fans? I mean, and I went through Miami. Miami hasn't won a Super Bowl since 1973. In the last 10 years, they've only been to the playoffs 3 times, and they're 0-3.
Yeah,
and they haven't been to a conference championship game since 1992. Buffalo's never won a Super Bowl. Buffalo went from 2000 to 2017 without even being in the playoffs. Think their fan base would switch since 2000 with the Giant fan base? Minnesota, 4 postseason appearances in the last 2 years, 2 wild card losses, 1 conference championship. They've never won a Super Bowl. Indianapolis, 3 playoff appearances in the last 10 years. 1 wild card win, 1 divisional, 1 loss in a conference championship game. They're 1-1 in the Super Bowl since 2000. And then the Saints, Drew Brees, Sean Payton. Last 10 years, 4 playoff appearances, 1 loss in the conference championship. And then if you go to 2009, they won their 1 Super Bowl. Giants have been to 3 and won 2 in that time frame. And then I had a buddy of mine. And again, and this is using teams as examples, like the Dolphins that I gave you in Buffalo. The Packers, since 2000, they've been to 1 Super Bowl. And they've lost a bunch of conference championship games. And then a buddy of mine who was working at the Jets, and I was talking to him, and he was like, he doesn't work there anymore. But we were talking about fans complaining. And he was like, really? He goes, do Giants fans not realize how lucky they are? I mean, the Jets haven't made the playoffs since 2010. They haven't made the playoffs since 2010. Yeah. Since 2010, the Giants have won a Super Bowl and been to the playoffs a couple other times and won a playoff game. And they haven't won a Super Bowl since the 1968 season. Like, I'm not saying that Giants fans should settle for what's gone on in the last 10 years, revolving door coaches, GMs, offensive coordinators, and all this stuff that started after the 2015 season. I'm not saying you should be upset, but it could be a lot worse than they make it out to be.
Sure. And I think, and I can't speak for fans, but I sense that a lot of the frustration is, in essence, misdirected in terms of, okay, yeah, it's a team failure, but there was a lack of talent. That is when teams win. So would you feel better about your team when they field a talented group? And I think you will. I think the frustrations will be a bit different, but you know, there's a sense of hopelessness at times, Bob, with the fan base, because you can get to Halloween and you got no shot, right? And that's what kills this fan base. But I think, you know, I know that with this regime, with Joe Shane, they understand how to evaluate talent, and they're starting to accumulate it. And you're starting to see it over their last few drafts. They are accumulating talent, the type of talent that can win in the NFL, not the kind of talent that they get on TV and talk about that can't miss. But they're getting guys who can make a contribution to the type of football that they want to play. as Giants, and I just want to go back to like the comparisons, and it's probably awfully quiet on the Jacksonville front and this is a kid that I still think is going to be a hell of a football player um, in this league, but their quarterback, and you guys can go back and look at all the scouting reports and everybody that had a microphone that said Lawrence was going to be the second coming. He was the quarterback that was a can't miss. He could still be can't miss, but he just ain't hit yet, right? And his numbers are eerily similar to Daniel Jones. And if you listen to the people talk about him, he's got more talent than Jones, right? But same thing happens. He's got two different head coaches, two different systems, and he has not been able to flourish. So it's all relative, folks. And, people will cite numbers and stats, and those stats can say whatever you want them to say. But if you're doing comps of Trevor Lawrence, who was a can't miss, and the first guy in the last damn near century who was coming out of college and was going to be a surefire success, versus the guy that went to Duke, right? And there were people that said it was a mistake. Well, those two guys have similar stats, but they also have similar circumstances. They've had system disruption. Trevor Lawrence, if he were in a Doug Peterson system consistently, you probably would have seen his consistent evolution to the guy that is, and he's freaking mega talented. But he's middle of the road right now because he's getting used to a new system now too. And as you can see, playing quarterback in this league ain't easy. It's not easy. And you need consistency at the position, and you need talent around those players. But, when you don't have a consistent coaching staff, a consistent system, and you have upheaval, these are the inconsistencies that you can expect.
Absolutely. Well said. Just finally, did you happen to glance at the schedule at all?
I think that's an exercise for fans. And, I can spend 2 minutes on it and tell you this much, folks. Have fun. There's playing your Thanksgiving in Dallas.
Yeah.
But as far as trying to project win, loss,
Oh,
here's,
no.
here's what I'm going to tell you. Well, they're doing it now. But here's what I'll tell you. What's on paper today ain't going to be what takes the field in September. Or by the time your team plays whoever else is on that schedule, those teams will look different because they have to deal with injuries. There are a lot of things they deal with. So those rosters are either going to get better or they're going to get worse. So have fun with it. I don't begrudge fans, but you look at, for me, I'm looking at where you have to travel. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
Who your opponent is today ain't the opponent that you're going to face even up until the first game of the season. Like right now, you know who you're going to play on the first game, but you don't know what that roster is going to look like.
Right. Are the Giants playing
Correct.
Sam Darnold, or are they playing J.J. McCarthy in week
Correct.
1 against Minnesota at home? No idea.
Correct. So, I mean, that's all I got to say about the schedule. Have fun with it.
First time since 1971, the only time that the Giants will open up at home against, or open up the season against, the Vikings. So there's not a lot of history there. The only other things I looked at is, all right, they're going to play the Cowboys at home on a little bit of a short week early in the season. We got Thanksgiving in Dallas yet again. We're going to get to go to Germany. And then, if healthy, and who knows by the time we get to October 20th, but Saquon comes back to MetLife Stadium on October the 20th in the Eagles.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll see. And then they finish the year in Philly. The rest of it, as you said, is just speculation. It's like last year, right? The first 5 weeks of the season, the Niners were the best team in the NFL by far. Giants fell into that. They had to play them on that short week.
Mm-hmm.
And then Debo got hurt and Trent Williams got hurt, and suddenly the Niners were vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? And then they got those guys back and they were healthy. So sometimes it's not who you play. Sometimes it's when you play 'em.
Right. And the other thing too, when you're looking at the schedule, put it to the side and watch your team in training camp and see what the progress is of guys that need to get better. The guys like Evan Neal that has to be, see what Singletary brings to your team and how your offense is evolving, and then it'll give you a chance to get excited about matchups. But right now, everything's on paper, and it's not even worth the ink it's printed on after it comes out because it won't be the same.
Yeah, it could be fun. That Monday night game in Pittsburgh against the Steelers on the 28th of October, and
Mm-hmm.
storied franchises or whatever. But as far as trying to predict anything, good luck with it. All right, Carl. I got that off my chest. I was just very frustrated. I hate
Well,
when people put words in my mouth.
Yeah, it's the goofy brigade, 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 brigade,
Brigade.
brigade,
Brigade.
brigade. Yeah,
Brigade. There we go. All right. Hey, wait a second. How can you get that 100 season stuff?
it's on Giants.com right now. You talk about the programming that the Giants have in terms of media and activities and activations. I'm fortunate that our brand starter was commissioned by the team to roll out their 1925 collection. And we have so many exciting drops that will give fans a chance to really take a historical journey through apparel with the organization. We've got some really good stuff, man, and so I'm excited about this season and some of the product releases that we will be debuting, including some of the jackets that people didn't have a chance to get their hands on because they sold out, and they have a little twist to them now because you have a commemorative patch, the 100th anniversary, and a lot of other really, really fun stuff. But it'll be a good year in terms of celebrating, and hopefully this fan base will be celebrating victories on the field to go with the commemoration of 100 seasons.
Yeah, again, I get it. The fans are tired of what's gone on the last 10 years. They want this team to start becoming a consistent winner, and that is fair. That is we all feel that way.
Yep.
But this 100 celebration is going to only happen once. You can only have one.
And it ain't a
100th
distraction
season.
or a diversionary tactic. It's celebrating the rich history of this franchise.
Yeah, and it's again, like I said, there's a lot of other teams that would love to trade places with you guys as a fan base based on some of their teams' histories.
Yeah.
So be proud about being a Giants fan. All right, how we like to end it, Carl?
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Believe in Giants.